Hey, welcome to the November edition of the How to Podcast series. What are we doing this month? We're doing an episode every single day for the month of November. Yeah, that's a lot of podcast episodes, Dave. And what I want to do is I want to shine a light on amazing podcasters who are doing great things in podcasting. I want you to meet some of my friends. Now, these are friends that I've met through this podcast. These are friends that I've met by being on their show. These are friends that have been at our meetups. These are friends who I cherish and I think are people that you need to know. The best way to grow podcasting is word-of-mouth marketing, telling people about people's shows. That's what this is all about for the month of November. It's all word of mouth. You're going to hear from them come on and talk about their podcast. You're going to hear clips from shows. You'll have links to go follow these amazing people. And I want to give you a variety of different amazing podcasters for you to fall in love with. And you found the right spot. This is November. It's all about the listeners. It's all about you. And I want to shine a light on some amazing people. Are you ready? Okay. Let's jump into this because I think you're going to love this. And I'm glad you're here. And what I can't wait for is the day when you and I get to interact. I can't wait for us to meet each other at our meetups, online, through the link in the notes attached to this episode, where you and I can meet each other and I can be there in your corner to support you. I would love to do that. So here's another example of one of my friends at their show, and I want you to fall in love with them just as much as I have. Okay? Welcome to the How to Podcast series. It's November. It's National Podcast Post Month. It's 30 episodes in 30 days, and I want you to meet some of my favorite people in this world called podcasting. It's all about them. It's not about me. Welcome to the show. Thanks for being here. Check out one of my friends. You ready? You ready? Okay, here we go. Okay, so Bill Monty has recently joined our meetups on Saturday. Hi, Bill. And Bill has this amazing voice. I love listening to him on our meetups, which we do on Saturdays. We talk podcasting with a bunch of great people from around podcasting. Bill's such a great guy. He's so much fun to talk to and listen to. And he has 2 podcasts. So there you go. So I'm already best friends because he has more than one. He's got 2. The one he has is called Tales from South Florida. It's a podcast, obviously, about South Florida. Again, everybody, remember what I said a while ago? That there's 2 areas in podcasting that we really need more podcasts about to reach an audience that's not being served in podcasting. I talked about local podcasts and podcasts for people over 50. So it's like Bill read my mind because that's exactly what he does. He has Tales from South Florida, local podcast. And then the podcast we're featuring here on the How to Podcast series for November, part of our National Podcast Post Month, we're going to look at Bill Monty's Guide for Getting Older. Okay, so a local podcast, Tales from South Florida, and Bill Monty's Guide for Getting Older. Bill has both of what I was saying you're lacking in podcasting. He's done them both. So there's that. Exactly what we need in podcasting. And I would encourage you, if you don't know what to do in a podcast and you just have a desire to be a podcaster, think about a local podcast or think about a podcast for anybody over 50. Because that's the generation that's not as active in podcasting as listeners. And there's not a lot of shows that bring those people to podcasting. So fill the gap. Start up show for one of those 2 things, or like Bill, do both. And so we're going to do a little clip from Bill's podcast, from Bill Monty's Guide for Getting Older. And again, wait till you hear his voice. You're like, oh, this guy's got the voice. I love it. So here's Bill, and I hope you enjoy it. And if you ever want to meet Bill, come to our meetups on a Saturday for the How to Podcast series over on meetup.com. Links on the howtopodcast.ca website. It's free, and you can come and talk to Bill yourself right there in our meetup group. And we'd love to have you join us. Here's Bill Monty for his podcast, Bill Monty's Guide for Getting Older. And don't forget, he also has Tales from South Florida, 2 great shows from Bill Monty. But here we go. Bill Monty's Guide for Getting Older, because that's what's happening to me. I feel old today. But here's Bill. Take a listen.
And now, on with the show.
On this episode of Bill Monty's Guide for Getting Older, we're looking at the concept of one day, as in one day I'll learn to speak French, or one day I'll go back to college and get that degree. We all have a plethora of one days in our lives. What happens when you realize one day is today? We're talking about that and more on this episode. So sit back, folks, and cue the music.
Welcome to Bill Monty's Guide for Getting Older.
The idea for this episode came from watching a show on HBO. If you're not watching it, you should be. It's called Hacks. It stars Gene Smart and Hannah Einbinder, and it's absolutely wonderful. They're in the 3rd season now. Hacks tells the story of a 70-year-old Las Vegas performer, a female comedian, think Joan Rivers a little bit here, who finds herself at a crossroads in her career. She's lost her Las Vegas gig. She's being given this young writer of jokes to help her become relevant again. And in this one episode, they were taking a walk in the woods, and Gene Smart's character, Deborah Vance, gets injured. And they come to realize they're not going to be rescued. They're totally lost, and they're going to have to make camp in the woods that night, and they start talking. And Deborah Vance is talking about her missed opportunities. Now, understand, in the show, she's very rich and very, very famous, so it seems strange to hear her giving a poor me speech. And when the other character brings that up to her, she starts talking about one day. And she says, you live long enough, you realize things don't change that drastically, but there's an inevitability of aging. As they sit on the ground, she starts talking about how she is struggling to come to terms with the fact that she is aging, that her body is not as reliable anymore as it used to be. And for her, one day doesn't exist any longer. Everything she wants to do, she must do now. No excuses, no postponing. She cannot afford to waste a single day. The talk that she gives during the show about that really resonated with me, because I had that same thought. You know, it wasn't that long ago that I said, well, one day I will do a podcast about aging. And here I am, and I'm doing it. But even that year ago, because it really was a year ago when this all started, that year ago, it seemed like I still had more options in front of me. There comes a point in life, and this is not trying to be maudlin or sad, because really it isn't, but it's a wake-up call. There comes a point in life when you realize you have more birthdays in back of you than you do in front of you. And even at a certain age, if you have, let's say, another 20 years, these are not 20 years where things are going to be getting progressively better for you. So when you're a child or a teenager and you have certain physical abilities, they will improve with age. You can get stronger. You can run farther. You can run longer. Everything is in front of you. When you get older, I'm 66. When you hit that age, you realize what you're doing now is probably the is probably the best you're ever going to be able to do it for the rest of your life. Every day, it seems, I have some new limitations to my body that didn't exist the day before. I've been battling hip problems for a long time now. And come to find out from a doctor, it might not be my hip at all. It might be my pelvis from a car accident from 20 years ago. So the things I can do on a physical level are diminishing. I'm not happy about it. And I can exercise to some extent to try to stabilize and improve. But there are no more long runs in my future, barring a miracle. miracle pill, miracle surgery, whatever that might be. I wouldn't say that I'm sad about it, but it is reality. It makes me realize, as Deborah Vance did in this episode, one day for me is now. I can't say, well, okay, I want to do this, but life is busy right now. I'm working and I'm trying to pay bills and this and that. But so I'll do that one day. Tomorrow, there are no more tomorrows. I don't feel there are anyway. I don't know how you feel about that. And I think this is a great conversation to be having. But for me, I have an urgency that says I must do whatever it is I'm going to do, and I must do it now. There are so many things that can affect our abilities physically and mentally as we age, that relying on the belief that we will be able to do this as well as we think we can in the future, even the near future, might be a false hope. To that end, I'm trying to do things that I want to do now. I'm not stressing out about the things that I can't do. I try not to live my life like that. Whatever it is I can't do, I can't do. There's no point in crying over it. There's no point in being sad about it. Find out what you can do and do it very well and celebrate it. And to that end, I've started expanding the podcast. My other podcast, Tales from South Florida, I've recently started doing video episodes, short videos, about 1.5 minutes long. And this is a whole new skill set. I'm not comfortable on camera, and you have to get new equipment, and I have to learn how to edit. But this is something I want to do. I have long wanted to write a book. I'm probably not alone there. It seems like everyone you meet wants to write a book. Maybe because self-publishing now is so easy, although still costly, that people do. But I've long been an advocate for customer service and ways that customers and corporations and organizations can make for a better customer experience. And I think I finally came up with the hook I've been looking for that. So I have started writing a book, because I don't have that many one days in front of me. If I'm going to write that book one day better be today. With that, once again, I'd like to remind you to please hit the subscribe button, the like button, leave us an email. I appreciate it so much. That will do it for this episode of Bill Monty's Guide for Getting Older. Remember, I would love to hear what your one-day wish is. Let me know. And remember, as always, please be kind whenever possible, because, my friends, as you know, it is always possible. Thank you. Take care. Be well.
You're not alone, so start feeling bolder. Welcome to Bill Monty's Guide for Getting Older.
There you go. So there's Bill Monty. Now I want my own song. Thanks, Bill. That sounds cool. That's so neat that you have your own song. I have to talk to Bill about that on the show. But yeah, there's Bill Monty's Guide for Getting Older. And if you're getting older, like you've had a birthday, then it's a perfect podcast for you. And if you're over 50, like me, then you're thinking about this a lot lately. And Bill steps in, gives you some great insight. I love that. What a great episode. That's just a little taste of it. Go listen to the entire episode, because it's really good. And Bill is really good. So check him out. Go follow him. All the information will be in the show notes. As always, you know how we do things, right? Because you're a podcaster. You know how to do this. And go check him out. Make sure you like, follow, share, and tell somebody about Bill's podcast. 2 podcasts. The Bill Monty's Guide for Getting Older and Tales from South Florida. Whether you live in South Florida or you're going to go travel there, make sure you go check out both of these amazing podcasts. And again, congratulations, Bill, on doing exactly what we need in podcasting. You're a great example to all of us. Doing a podcast for people over 50, people getting older, and for a local podcast. Home run, amazing. Well done. That's a great example for all of us. Follow Bill's lead, do the thing, start your podcast. Thank you, Bill, for all that. It's amazing stuff. So I love being a podcaster. I love meeting these great people. And I love the fact that you pressed play on this episode and that you're still here. That tells me that there's something here for you. And if you're like, Dave, I want to be part of this. I want to be part of this community, and I want to spend some time with you. There's a link in the show notes. It's just for you. You and I can get together and chat about your podcast, answer any questions you have. And the most important thing is we get to meet each other. So if you feel like you've been podcasting alone, you should never podcast alone. You should podcast in a group. We have a community just for you. And I, Dave, would love to be part of your community. HowToPodcast.ca is where you can find me, find our amazing community, and meet the people you've met here today on this episode. So, what are you waiting for? Stop podcasting by yourself. Reach out. I would love to talk to you. Happy National Podcast Post Month. We'll talk soon. Thank you for being part of a community, and thank you for listening to this episode. HowToPodcast.ca. Take care.